Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Lego. In today's episode, the trio talk about drama with Lego, their controversies, and everything surrounding that genre of conversation. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Lego. So today we have our other two hosts, Minifigcentral
It's great to be here. I'm glad to be back.
and BrickBucas.
Hello, it's Lucas here.
And today we are going to talk about Lego drama. This is a pretty common talk amongst us Lego people. So we're going to be getting into that right now.
So first, I wanted to start out with the price increase. This is a big topic in the Lego community, and I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on this.
This is a very recent event taking place August 1st. Almost all Lego sets got a price increase of $10 or more. I don't know if any set has gotten to $100 more dollars.
They only go up 20%, but it actually is only. They said it was only a quarter of their sets that got price increased, but they went from I think it was 15 to 20% more, maybe 10.
They did it based off a percentage,
Yeah.
and it's quite a big price increase when you see a set go up $60. I mean, I think the Millennium Falcon went up. I think it was around $60, which is making a expensive set more expensive.
They're also making the modulars probably around $200, which is really annoying because they were at a good price when they were $150, but now they're going up even more. And I'm afraid that some Lego sets are just going to become too expensive.
Thankfully, we have the Speed Champion sets to look forward to being still only $20, which I think is keeping us all together and stopping us from completely abandoning Lego altogether.
What I thought the most ridiculous price increases were the sets that are coming out August 1st, and they have the set price tag, and then come August 1st, they're like, oh, we're going to up it 20%. Like you saw the Sanctum go up $50
Ridiculous.
when it was only supposed to be $200 on August 1st, which was very annoying.
I think the most ridiculous thing is that they put a price increase on the Avatar sets, which aren't even supposed to come out until 2023?
I feel like they
Fall.
shouldn't.
Fall.
I feel like they shouldn't be putting price increases on sets that haven't already come out because it's not giving anybody a chance to even get the price or get it without the price increase. And those were just already leaked prices, and now they're changing.
And it also makes it seem like Lego isn't putting up the prices for inflation, because if you really looked into the future, you wouldn't put sets in the future up 20%. They did have their highest increase last year. I don't remember how much they actually gained in profit, but they strangely upped their prices afterwards, which kind of goes on to what's the whole reason behind this really? Can't be just inflation.
It's probably because they spent a lot of money for that one gaming company.
I think that Lego needs to stay out of the video game sphere. They need to stick to their toy company. It's been their most successful by far. I think if they focused all on that, the video games would become irrelevant. I think they spend too much time on the video games. I mean, the Lego Skywalker saga is nice. I think if you stick with the Lego themed games, there's Indiana Jones, Lego Batman.
Yeah.
I think that's a good combo because you can have kids play the video game, then they go into the stores and get the actual sets that match the game. I think that's a good strategy. But
Lego has released a few games, small games, for the Apple game service.
I think it's called Apple Gaming Plus or something like that.
They put out games for that. They're kind of small. The only one I found significant, interesting, was a journey. It's called a journey game or something like that. And you play a figure that's made out of a few one by one tiles and a few 1x1 bricks. That was the one that seemed at least the most interesting.
And if you look at Lego's history, their apps never really did good. Like there was a lot of broken apps, like Hidden Side. That one didn't work very well.
Missions, the newest one of the newer ones.
And video. Yeah, video was a big mistake.
I recently got a video set only because it was the llama and it was the mascot, and I wanted to at least have, a piece of remnant of an old theme that we'll never, ever, hopefully ever see again. Lego, I hope you're hearing this. Never, ever, ever, please, ever, ever.
I think with the video, what's going to happen is like 20 years later, everyone's going to be like, oh man, this is so cool. But they'll forget about how poor the marketing was and how really unnecessary it is in the grand scheme of things.
How Lego in the first ever Lego Con, or was it the second? No, it was the second Lego Con. No, I think what I'm thinking about was the second one. They they wanted to do a concert with the llama guy, and I'm pretty sure nobody bought tickets to that.
I think when it comes to them getting kids into like Lego themes, like how they're doing Ninjago, where they have the show and then they have the sets. I think TV shows are the best way to go, because you can't have an app, like an independent app, and then try to promote the stuff. Like if they did a video show where the kids learn about the characters, they'll be like, oh man, I want that character or whatever.
More incentive. Not only that, but the price was terrible. The 15 for like a little box and some records. Like that was terrible.
I think the main price came out of the container that it was in, but at the same time,
$15.
Yeah.
I got mine for $9 on clearance at Target, so I was satisfied with that price. So if they kept it at $8.99, or they had it initially at $8.99, I think it would have been at least a little bit better. Well, speaking of that video set, I mean, the price per piece on that's got to be crazy. But then again, you also have three actually. No, four. You have four big pieces, but it's like nothing you can't get anywhere else for cheaper.
I think people need to understand price per piece better. It's not a set thing. It never was. I know people try to say, 10 cents per piece, which nowadays that's obviously going to go up with these price hikes. But
Right.
The price per piece is mainly based off what you're getting. If you get like a big dinosaur set, I mean, the price per piece is obviously going to be way lower because you have those big molded pieces.
And I mean, sometimes, like what we're going to talk about next podcast with like Lego City, sometimes they have big molds. And
Bucas, being a Lego City fan, how do you feel about the road plates?
I feel like the road plates were a big miss by Lego, because they literally, they can barely even fit the cars themselves because they're really tiny. I feel like if they made them a bit bigger, then they would be able to make things. Like I've seen people who've modded the roll plates so that they have like an extra bit of length so that they can actually fit like 6 wide cars really well, rather than barely being able to hold 6 wide cars and mainly being there for 4 wide vehicles.
Bill, I know you earlier were talking about the Speed Champion. Do you prefer the width of what do you prefer as the width of the Speed Champion sets?
See, 8 is great. 4 is just small enough that it's good, but I think 6 is like in the nice, relatively like realistic range.
I feel like 8 wide though is really realistic, but people are just not used to like that big of a size, so it doesn't seem as good.
It can also make some of the cars look a little weird.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, a lot of like the racing cars are that wide, like comparatively to the figures. Like I feel like almost all of the Speed Champion cars are minifig scale, like 1-to-1 what minifigures would drive. So I don't know. I think I like the way Speed Champions is going, and I hope they keep ideas going for years and years to come.
Here's my thing on Speed Champions. When does it become the point where they kind of run out of ideas? Where they have to start remaking old cars? I feel like the theme isn't as endless as other themes like Lego City. I mean, you can make infinite different sets, even though they seem to do a million remakes of like hospitals and stuff.
And cars. And planes and helicopters.
Well, here's the thing. With Speed Champions, I feel like as long as there are new speed cars, there will be speed champion sets, unless they cancel the theme, which will make many people angry, including me. But looking back at older cars, I mean, they could even delve back into the 50s or the 60s or the 70s. Like, they don't have to stay in the 90s and the 2000s or the 2010s or the 80s. Like, they can go way back. And I think that would even be more interesting than things that they're doing right now. Like, imagine getting I mean, this is kind of a crazy idea, but imagine getting a Ford Model T Lego set for Speed Champions or something like that. Like an old Ford Mustang or like one of those. Like,
Do you like the way they're doing movie cars, adding like cars from the iconic movies and just making them into a Lego set? Do you like that?
I do like that. I actually got the 007. Is it a Porsche?
Unsure. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a car person. I don't remember
The James Bond cars.
It's a James Bond car. Anyways, back to the point. I do like how they're doing movie cars, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
I hope to do more of those kind of style sets rather than just going back to like normal things. I hope it's not just like a one-time thing.
I hope in the future they start doing more cult classic cars, like even maybe a Jurassic Park and a Jurassic World Jeep in the same set as like a tribute to.
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of different vehicles and such, I wanted to quickly talk about in Star Wars how they've been doing this downsizing trend. I wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, personally, I feel like it's not too horrible because a lot of because they're definitely obviously making price increases. So I feel like the smaller sets allow it to still have a cheaper price that, you wouldn't get if you got a normal size X-Wing. Because I feel like at this point, if they made like the older style X-Wings, like they probably would be like $100, maybe $110 instead of like $80, $90 that they used to be. So I guess in a sense, the downscaling can be good for price.
I think it's good for the little kids, but I think for like hardcore collectors, I mean, I guess hardcore collectors, you can get the UCS sets, but if you're a collector, I think they should still release the scale that they used to do back in the day, because I think everyone's willing to pay that mid tier of an X-Wing.
You think people will start to get kind of bored of the X-Wing? You think it'll turn into almost like a Luke's land speeder sort of situation?
I think so at a certain point, but I think they've handled it a lot different than the Luke's land speeder. I mean, the Luke's land speeder, they were releasing one like every 2 years, where the X-Wing, it was like a 5-year gap, and then they, at least the Red 5 X-Wing, they hadn't released it for 5 years, and then they downsized it.
And I mean, going back to the downsizing, for my opinion, I do kind of like it just because it's cheap. And if let's say you're an animator and you need just a lot of X-Wings in a scene or something, then you can just go out and buy the really cheap X-Wing just for the background model. I mean, it doesn't look exactly like the older X-Wing models, but it does. I think it looks pretty cool for what it is.
Going back to the whole X-Wing thing, like if it would get old, I think if they do some more variation, like if they get like X-Wings from like Rogue One, like the blue X-Wings, and like some of the more like not as well like made X-Wings.
Sadly, I don't think we will see them, just because if it's an old movie, Lego's not going back.
I disagree. They go back to old movies all the time.
Well, core movies, part of the saga, I mean, I don't think we're going to see any more Solo sets, sadly, or any more Rogue One sets.
I think give it like 5 years, they'll return. But right now, I agree, they're probably not revisiting them anytime soon.
I mean, that's the most annoying part about Lego Star Wars is that they'll do like a show that everybody loves, but they'll only make 5 sets and then they'll never do it again. Like Kenobi, if we don't get a season 2, then they're probably never going to come back to it.
One thing about Lego and the new Star Wars shows that I've liked is how they'll do it a year later instead of doing it as it's coming out and try to lining it up, because we see it in Marvel all the time. The sets will come out inaccurate, and then it's kind of just like a wasted slot. But Star Wars, they've been coming back to it a year later because then it'll be accurate and you'll get the things that the fans really like.
That's the thing. If they make something like you said from Marvel that's inaccurate, they won't like come back and they won't make it look accurate. They'll just give it to you and say that it's good.
I am gonna have to disagree with that because they came out with the Infinity Saga, and we got a bunch of sets from older movies, especially like some that were older, and then they remade like I think the Avengers compound was an old set that was really inaccurate with the Thanos, and then they came back and nailed it to a T with the Thanos. Like we got a new mold, we got a new head. I think they can always go back and.
The thing is, they only did it because there's no more Marvel movies coming out at that time. But when there was ongoing movies, they never revisited. But I do think Marvel kind of made up for the Infinity War sets by doing that because it was very needed. The most iconic movies out of the series, and then
Iron Man,
and then they revisited the other movies too in that whole series of sets.
All right, we're going to wrap it up a little bit, but before we wrap anything up, we're going to do a little news segment of news and leaks provided you exclusively by Minifigcentral.
So first up, I think the big one for any Harry Potter fan, BrickBucas is shaking his boots over here, the Hogwarts Express. Bucas, well, let me hear your thoughts.
Well, I think this is an amazing set. I know a lot of people don't like that it's $500, but the price per piece is actually really good because it has 5,129 pieces. And I've also heard a lot of people who said that it looks a lot like the 2018 one, and I just don't see what people are talking about because there's so much more detail with this newer model.
Let me point out, in the last episode, we heard that the leak would be coming out August 16th, and that's three days in the future. So I don't know who's traveling into the future grabbed us a leak of the set.
Bucas, do you want to give us a rundown of your thoughts on the figures real quick?
I think personally I enjoy the minifigures because there are a lot of exclusive ones like the
Luna.
Well, yeah, the Luna, and like the minifigures from
the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Well,
Harry's Children.
Well, obviously, yeah, the Deathly Hallows Part 2 and stuff like that, and also the minifigures from the Prisoner of Azkaban. They have more accurate versions because in the original 2018 set, they had inaccurate outfits, and a lot of people didn't like that. So I'm really glad that they revisited it.
For me, I do understand the anger behind the minifigures, especially since we didn't get an old Hermione and an old Ron. And the reason Lego gave was kind of like, I wouldn't call it scummy, but like it wasn't a good reason. They like quote unquote wanted to show more of Harry's story, but his friends are a big part of his story. Like, if he doesn't have his friends, it's not really his story, you know? His friends are a huge part of his life, and I feel like they could have easily taken out the two students that they randomly added for an older Ron and an older Hermione, and I feel like that was just such a missed opportunity.
I like how they did the generations of Harry Potter because the train was kind of like a constant in the series, like, oh, you start off and they go on the train, and I like how they did the generations of Harry Potter.
Also, I think my favorite figure in that set is the old Harry Potter. It just looks so nice. It's so accurate. And I think for that figure, you definitely don't need like printing because I think he just has regular jeans on.
And I honestly really enjoy the year one Ron because it's also another really accurate minifigure.
So next up, we have the official look at the 4+ Batman set. We won't get into DC too much, but we've seen the pictures. I mean, it looks like an acceptable set. Harley Quinn, Batman, just a nice bat bike, and it's whatever.
I find that set really, really lazy because we basically got that set a year or two before with the Captain America bike. That's practically the same bike, the same mold. I guess it is. They're both 4+ sets, unless the Captain America one is, and I'm just not remembering right. But it's so lazy. I hope they don't continue this line of bikes sets, like little bike sets. It's just it doesn't look good if they keep this going.
And the last week we have is the M'Baku figure. It's from the $80 Black Panther set, and it's nice to have this figure finally made.
So Lego back at it again with no leg printing. Then again, I don't know how he looks in the movie. This could be totally accurate to his costume, but it just, for a set at that price, they did this with the Sanctum, with Ebony Maw, and I don't know, with Wong. Wong was really upsetting for me, that he didn't have anything on his legs, but the previous figures did. But anyways, the torso looks awesome, and I love his face print. But overall, just I guess I feel like it's lacking a lot, and they really could have added more. And I don't like this laziness. It's not looking good.
I feel like Lego needs to start doing leg printing again, because I feel like they've really stopped doing leg printing in minifigures that especially need it, and also downgrading old minifigures that had leg printing and not giving them leg printing.
A recurring theme for Marvel, which we won't get into that today.
All right, so that's it for the news, the talk, the everything. If you liked this podcast or wherever you find it, like it, share it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. You guys
It was great being on. Excited for next week.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
And with that, close this off. Yeah. Smash that like button, hit subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Goodbye.